One of the great things about living in the UK is that we've got distinct seasons, and each of those seasons brings wonderful photographic opportunities. And this month, I've come to Dartmoor because I'm going to capture one of its best seasonal highlights, and that is heather. Yes, good morning and welcome to Dartmoor. Now, as I said in the intro, I'm here this month to shoot the heather. So what does that mean? What do I mean by that? Well, it's the 1st of August today, and generally speaking, this is around the time where the heather comes out on Dartmoor. And in fact, it's probably been out a week or so already. I was up shooting a video around Haytor area. I noticed that the heather was out and I thought, oh, right, I must come out and shoot some photographs of the heather. As with a lot of the seasonal highlights, I tend to miss them. Life gets in the way and I don't make the most of them. So I decided that this month, the month of August, I'm going to make the most of the heather because it's beautiful. It's maybe a little bit too early, but that's the whole point of this video, is that we'll go out for the month and we'll explore some areas, both at sunrise and at sunset, to see if we can capture some images of the heather. Now, I was pretty inspired by the heather last year. I got out for a couple of times. If you've been reading my blog, you know I did a couple of blog posts called, I think, In Search of Heather, and I got some, actually I was really happy with some of the photographs I got from there. So I'm really excited about this month to come out and capture some photographs. But I need to tell you about where I'm going to be photographing. Let me tell you about where I'm going to be doing my heather project, because I guess it is a project. If I'm going to try and shoot for the entire month of August, I'm going to try and get a collection of photos. Though if I get one photograph, if I get one good photograph, that'll make me happy. That's what I got last year. I got one really nice picture of the heather and I was pretty happy with that. So hopefully we can repeat it this year. But this year, I get to bring you along. So where have I come? Well, certainly this morning, I've come to Chinkwell Tor. So it's around the Haytor area that I'm going to concentrate my little project on. So there's heather around the sort of Haytor area. I've already got a shot in mind for that, hopefully a panoramic shot of the heather and Haytor in the background. There's Chinkwell Tor, where I've captured a few photographs of heather before. This is where I'm standing at the moment. There's already got some nice clumps of heather, and behind me there's Honeybag Tor as well. In fact, if I spin you round, that might be better. So there's Honeybag Tor, and the other area, sorry about the wind, is Hamel Down over there. So it's all roughly, spin you back round to me, there we are. It's all roughly in the same area, but it's quite a reasonably sized area, so I've got plenty of scope for capturing photographs. Now, like I said, I'm on Chinkwell, so why don't we grab our first picture of the project? I've got my camera in a vertical orientation. This is because I've got three main elements to my composition that I want to kind of line up. So the first one, obviously, is the heather. So this is the most pleasing bunch in terms of where I can position it in the composition. Unfortunately, it's not quite there yet. It's not quite as purple as perhaps some of these other bits around here, but it's the biggest bit and it lines up well with what I want to do compositionally. So I come forward, and the next bit is I've got this rock here, which probably isn't going to catch the light. Now I'll talk about the light again in a minute. So that runs from here over to the right hand side of the frame, and then across to the next bit, which is over to there towards, if I point the camera down, let's get down, you can see Honeybag there in the background. That's what I'm going to go for. Now, a couple of compositional challenges. I don't know if you can see, if I bring the rock in again, there is a house, or a farmhouse down in the valley there. I want to try and exclude that. So I'm a little bit limited. I've reset the camera. I'm a little bit limited about where I can stand, that I can put both the heather and the rock and Honeybag in kind of line, or keep them all within the composition without it being too tight at the sides. This has turned out to be a cracking little morning. I have to admit, I was a little bit pessimistic this morning with the amount of cloud and particularly on the horizon, but the sun has broken through and it is covering the landscape with beautiful light. You can see the sun there. I've got the camera all set up there behind me and the pictures are looking rather nice. Unfortunately, that lump of heather's not quite as purple as I want it to be, but the rest of the ground and the colours, you know, with the greens and the yellows of the grasses and the other plants and foliage there, yeah, it just looks really, really nice. Really happy. You know, it's sun rises at 5:40 at the moment in Dartmoor, so it's still about a 4 AM alarm call. When you do go, am I a bit mad for doing this? But then you get mornings like this and you're just like, wow, yeah, definitely worth getting up for. Been wandering around the top of Chinkwell Tor looking for other compositions. I don't think I'm going to get much more this morning, but I'm going to try and use my time efficiently and scope out some compositions for later. So let me spin you around. So I think this one, if I spin you the camera around, this one's probably going to be more of a sunset location just due to the direction of the light. There is some heather just starting to come through there, and there's a nice leading line through here. This path drops down with the rocks either side out into the distance, down there to Bone Hill rocks down there, and that's Ripping Tor there in the background. And this could work really well at sunset with the sun coming off to the right, and there's some nice clumps of heather down there. I am going to take the shot, but I think this will be one that I want to return to in the evening. Plus there's a big yellow van there off in the distance that's not making the scene look particularly natural, and to be fair, my car's down there as well. So if I spin you back round, there we go. I will take this shot anyway, and I think then it'll be time to pack up for the day. Okay, that's my time here done. I have actually found another composition, actually a landscape orientation shot, which for me is quite unusual on Dartmoor, but I'm not going to show you that one right now. I'm going to save that for another visit. Should be really nice at sunset actually, because I've just come to this side of Chinkwell, which is going to be slightly better suited for sunset pictures. Just behind me there actually, if I just go round, that's the village of Widdicombe in the Moor down there. Really beautiful part of the Dartmour this. I do recommend that you come here. So I'll see you again soon. Hopefully not too long for me, just a couple of days maybe. For you, it'll be almost instantaneous, and it might either be Haytor, back to Chinkwell, Honeybag, or like I say, onto Hambledown as well. So I shall see you very soon. Welcome back. For this morning's heather photograph, I've come to Honeybag Tor. It's been a few days since I last spoke to you, and this is because it's been really windy up here on Dartmoor. The weather has been reasonably nice, but it's been very, very windy, which makes capturing photographs of heather quite challenging, especially if it's all blowing about. So this morning it's a little bit calmer. It's not completely still, which is kind of what I was hoping it was going to be. But it's probably going to be still enough, particularly for this location, which is Honeybag Tor, which is just down from Chinkwell Tor, which is where I shot the first part of this video. I had originally planned to come here for that first part, but there was some camping going on up here. It's tent free this morning, so I've got plenty of opportunity to capture photographs. During that windy period, I came up here and I explored the location in a bit more detail, and I have got some compositions already picked out. Now let me talk you through the first composition for Honeybag Tor. This is a composition I shot last year. Really happy with that image. I've not got quite the same conditions. They're not quite as dramatic as they were last year, but it's definitely a composition I want to reshoot. And I might well shoot this more than once for this project. But let me give you a little talk through what I find so compelling about this composition. First and foremost, obviously, it's this beautiful clump of heather here. Beautiful, vibrant colours, a really strong foreground subject. And hopefully when the sun gets past that haziness on the horizon, I'll get a little bit of light on that, and that'll really sparkle up. I then got this rock stack here, which sits just behind it, and that will sit on the left-hand side of the frame. And if I move out to the right, we got this rock stack slightly further away, and that sits on the right-hand side of the frame. So this is why I'm shooting this in vertical orientation. I've got to be slightly careful about where the top of that rock stack sits on the hill there. That's Chinkwell Tor, where I was the other day. Just I don't want to make sure that I don't want that to be on the horizon. Just below, I think, is probably where I'm going to shoot. And then we've got the sky, which is a bit, well, there's nothing there really apart from that little white wispy cloud. There's lots of cloud behind me. That'll be for later on composition. So I'm almost certainly going to shoot this in a 5:4 crop. I've got my camera all set up. Composition is locked in. Really, I just need to, hopefully wait for the wind to die down a little bit. I'll probably use a slightly shorter exposure time coupled with a higher ISO just to try and minimise the amount of blur in the grass as it's blowing about in the wind. But really, I'm just going to wait for the light and then keep my fingers crossed. Finally, the sun has broken through that haze. There's a gorgeous bit of light there on the heather. It's just catching the rocks there. It's not super strong, but it's very, very pleasant. Right, I'm on the move, and I'm doing something that I never recommend doing, and that's leaving your camera on the tripod and chucking it on your shoulder. But I have really double checked it's on securely. Anyway, the reason I'm moving in such a hurry is because it's at least half an hour after sunrise, which means that soft golden light that's only just come now, the time it's going to be a little bit limited. So I'm moving quickly onto my second composition. Just look at this. Isn't Dartmoor utterly beautiful when you get a bit of light on it? Oh, to be fair, it can be quite beautiful even when the weather's a bit harsh, a bit dramatic. But just look at that scene. Lovely. Beautiful in the summer. I mean, I like Dartmoor in all seasons, but there is something special about this time of year, the light, the colour of the ground. Oh, it's just fantastic. Anyway, let me talk to you about the composition. Right, we have another beautiful clump of heather here, just catching that morning light. Unfortunately, it's still breezy up here, so these little grasses are still blowing in the wind. I've tried to go for a shorter exposure time, but there's still going to be a little bit of blur, but that's just the way it is. So I've got this, and then it leads out to this kind of plateau here on Honeybag Tor, and in the distance there we've got more of Honeybag Tor, just catching the light from the sun, which is just off to the right there. And the foreground, it's got this little trails here, or little paths that have been walked out, clumps of heather, and then off out into the distance, and the hills then, Easton Tor away in the distance there. I would have liked a bit more cloud. It was cloudy over here when I got here this morning, but there was no light. Again, I'm probably going to go for that 5:4 composition. I'm just having a little sit down here because, you know, you can go around and be all hectic and it's exciting. I'm shooting heather, the sun's out, and it's just catching the colours here, and it's all beautiful. But sometimes, you know, photography can be really hectic. Sometimes you just need to sit down and appreciate it. And I know I just said, oh, I've got to be in a hurry. The sun's not going to be a lot of light left. But sometimes you just need to sit down and just have a look about what you're photographing and soak it all in. I'm going to move on to the third composition, but I just thought I'd take just a minute to sit here. The ground's actually quite warm, and just to admire the heather. Just take a moment sometimes. well, I did just have to take that little moment there before moving on. Probably has cost me a little bit. The sun is quite bright in the sky now. There's really, when you think about the time the sun rises to when it gets so high in the sky, it's probably in about an hour, I think, of where the light is soft and golden. After that, it can get quite harsh and contrasty. But I'm still going to take this photograph because there's no likelihood I will come back to Honeybag Tor and shoot a lot of these competitions again in different conditions, hopefully with a bit more cloud in the sky, hopefully even stiller. But I wanted to come out this morning because, you know, you got to take the chance sometimes, especially on a project where you've only got a limited time frame. You know, I've only got really about 4 to 6 weeks to shoot these heather photographs, so you've got to kind of take those opportunities as and when they come. So I've come down sort of the back end of Honeybag Tor. This is where I went exploring the other day, and I think I found a composition that's going to work quite well. It's not ideal conditions at the moment, but I'm going to capture it just so I can get my eye into the composition, so that when I come back, hopefully if I get to come back, I can just grab the image. But let me talk you through it anyway. So again, vertical orientation shot. I've got some heather here. It's probably not as good as the heather that's further up Honeybag Tor, but it's still very nice and lovely and colourful. And then we've got these rocks here, these kind of large boulders, which at the moment are still just about catching the light. They're almost completely illuminated now, so you don't get those areas of light and dark. So you get a bit more when the sun's a bit lower in the horizon. And then as we move up, get these rocks over here, and this kind of holds a frame on the right. If I bring the camera down just a little bit and then come over this way, and then we've got the back end of Honeybag Tor there in the background. Like I say, I think that's definitely going to be one to come back to. It just needs a little bit more, drama. And I just sort of mentioned, you probably noticed I take a lot of photographs in vertical format, and I think this works particularly well for Dartmoor, and particularly well for the type of shots that I'm trying to capture for this project, because the foreground and midground are really important. And it tends to flow quite nicely if you've got a vertical orientation shot. You've got the foreground, flows out to the midground, and then out to the background. If you go landscape, I certainly find it's maybe a little bit too much, especially when shooting wide angle, that is. A little bit too much space on the left and the right, and you lose some of the flow. And also the other challenge of actually spinning you around at this time of morning. Yep, you can see my shadow, so going wide's not really a practical option. And there's Honeybag Tor, spring you back round. So yeah, that's why I shoot vertical. It allows me to focus the composition on the elements that are really important, because there's a lot of, I guess, narrow views, and the views, the wide panoramic views are quite pleasing to the human eye, but I think to make a strong composition, I like to narrow things down and get it tight. Saying all that though, while I was out the other day doing a bit more exploring, looking for compositions, I think there is potentially a panoramic shot that I might want to grab. So there could be a big wide heather shot. Not sure, but I think I've got a plan in my head that's what I might do for a particular view that I've got. Anyway, I think that is probably. I'm not going to walk away actually, because it's a bit windy. The camera's here. I'm actually perched on a rock, so the camera, even though I've got tripod spikes, they're not in the ground because I'm on a rock, so I better not walk away. That breeze could just pick up my camera, and that would be a very expensive and unfortunate end to what has been an absolutely beautiful morning up here. I just wish there'd been a bit more cloud, a bit less wind. I'm always wishing for something else, but I have had a really nice time, and it's exciting having this project to do, having a focus, especially a focus with a limited time frame. This heather's not going to be here for too much longer, so it's really encouraging me to get up and get out, even when the conditions I might not think are absolutely ideal. But I have got other locations. I've got a couple of sunset locations that I'm going to take you to, and I will most likely return here as well, because I think particular shots are worth reshooting. Anyway, that's enough waffling from me for just now. I shall, again, by the magic of video, I shall see you in a very short space of time. Good evening, yes, I'm out again photographing Dartmoor's heather, and this evening I've come to Hookney Tor. Yes, good evening and welcome back to Dartmoor. And I've come to a slightly different part of Dartmoor for my heather photography tonight. So I've come down to the Hamildown area. So I've got Hookney Tor just up there, and behind me I've got Grimspound. I photographed this location a couple of times. The view down to Grimspound is particularly nice, and that's where I'm standing just now. There is plenty of heather about, but there's always a but, isn't there? The conditions, well, the wind is relatively calm, which obviously works in my favour. It is quite overcast. The light is rather flat. So I think this evening it's going to be a matter of just doing a bit of a recce, checking out some spots, and then coming back when I've got better light from the setting sun. But I've already got a view set up, so let me talk you through that one. Okay, for my first viewpoint, of which there should be a few this evening, I've got this, what I like to call the classic viewpoint down to Grimspound. I say classic because I've shot it a couple of times before. Now, we've got the either side here of the path, we've got these clumps of heather, obviously. Now, they're not quite as good as they were in previous years. The colours maybe not quite as bold, but they're still pretty enough. And I think with a bit of side lighting, that would look rather nice. We've then got the path that flows down the middle of those clumps, which acts as a nice leading line all the way down to Grimspound there, which is that Bronze Age site, a big stone circular site you see down there. Unfortunately, as you can tell from the cloud, not much happening up there. It's a little bit grey and flat. So like I said, these are probably going to be recce shots, but it's nice to re-familiarise myself certainly with this composition, and take a photograph and then come back hopefully one evening when I've got some really nice light. Just come off the path that was looking down to Grimspound, just off to the side there, and I found a really nice clump of heather. Let me spin you around and show you it. So, go down here. It's just much more colourful than the one that's actually on the path. Now, for this composition, I don't have the leading line down to the Grimspound area there, so that maybe that area between my heather and the Grimspound maybe a little bit empty, but again, I think with some nice strong side lighting, because if the sun was setting and we had clear visibility of it, it'd be off to the right. And actually that grass, let me show you the grasses a bit closer. These kind of grasses here, which you see blowing in the wind, really catch the light, and it can look very beautiful. And I think that would make for a good photograph. So I'm going to note this particular spot down as one that I'm going to come back to. Spin you around. One of these days I'm going to get used to this camera and press it 3 times to spin myself around. But yeah, so I think I'm going to take that picture, and just up there I spotted an even nicer clump of heather. Let me bring you along the path here just a little bit from where I just took that previous composition. I'm going to do something a little bit different with the composition. I'm not going to include Grimspound in this one. This is because I spotted this really beautiful clump of heather. It's beautifully rich and purple in its colours. Probably some of the best looking heather that I've seen on Dartmoor. So let me quickly spin you round. 1, 2, 3, there we go. So we've got this lovely lump of heather. It really is a shame there's not any light from the setting sun that would light up really rather nicely. So I've got that in the kind of bottom right hand corner of the frame, and then this small grassy path here which leads along, and then on the left hand side I've got this rock here which holds the left hand side of the frame, and then that path leads out to that V kind of gap there created by the 2 hills. Now sunrise is from over there, so possibly might make for a sunrise shot, but there's Grimspound down there. I'm excluding that from the frame, so this is going to be a bit more of a simple composition if I come back to the camera. And again, I think with a nice bit of lighting, this would be quite a strong image. It's just unfortunate the sky's a little bit flat. I have to say, it is quite the treasure trove of compositions up here, especially with the heather. I've been to Hookney Tor and Grimspound a couple of times, but this is the first time I've really had a properly good look about, mainly because I've got a bit given this focus about the heather, so I've spent a long time looking for compositions featuring heather, so I've taken a little bit more time to explore this location than I normally would perhaps give myself, which is obviously only a good thing. Now, I've come up to, I'll show you Hookney Tor actually, spin you around. So there's Hookney Tor itself. It's not the most photogenic of tors, I have to say, but I've come up close by, I'll spin you back round, because I've got another viewpoint that I'm going to talk you through. I'm not convinced by it. Maybe this one I do need the light to really help me envisage it, but let me talk you through what makes it interesting to me anyway. So we've got some heather here, not as good as that previous clump, which was really rather nice. This one's looking a little bit paler, but you've got this bit here, and then it goes out to this area here. You can see in the middle of the frame, we've got those rocks there, jaggy rocks with lines through them, and there's kind of undulating ground there as well. And in the right light, that would catch really nicely and add quite a bit of depth and contrast to that mid-ground of the image before then you're led out again towards the hill and to Grimspound. So this one's a little bit harder for me to visualise at the moment. I can't be 100% sure that it would actually work, but I'm going to take the shot anyway, and then when I do come back here, hopefully with some nice light, I'll try this one out again to see if it actually works. Despite the lack of light and it's all been a bit flat, I'm having a really fantastic time up here tonight, feeling quite creative when it comes to photographing the heather. There's lots of compositional options here for me. I just found another one just when I think I've probably had the last one, and I'm going for something a little bit different. Let me spin you around and I'll show you what I mean. So there's my camera there. As you can see, it's quite low down, got the legs quite spread out. And this is because if I come around here, I've got this, well actually I'll swing you around here, it's all a bit live. So I've got this lump of lump of heather here, and this little rocky outcrop here. And the reason I've come quite far down with the camera is if I'm quite high up, it kind of disappears, or it's not as prominent on the frame, but if I come down, it gets a little bit larger. And then with the heather there in the foreground and Grimspound out there in the distance in the hill. So this is very much a landscape orientation shot. Again, would be nice with the light, but I think this also has some potential. I think coming out on evenings like this are just as important as those evenings where you think you're going to get the really nice conditions, the banging light, or whatever else you look for, those conditions you look for in your photography. It's important to come out when you know the conditions aren't going to be great, because certainly for me this evening, having this flat light has put less pressure on me. I know I'm not, have to or want to hang about in a particular spot, just wait for the light. I don't want to move in case I miss it and I miss that shot. I know that the light's not going to change. Nothing's going to change around here. It's the same conditions until it gets dark. And that is really, like I said just a minute ago, it's really opened up my mind to do more exploration of this area. And it's been really useful because it's also, I've managed to sort of fine tune the compositions that I want to get. So that when I come back here, hopefully soon, when I've got that nice light from that setting sun, I already know the compositions, I'm prepared, I know how I've got to get my camera set up, and I'll just be able to take those shots, and I won't be not panicking, but in a bit of a hurry, trying to find compositions when the light's rapidly changing. 1 minute it's great, 1 minute it's not, as is often the way on Dartmoor. So this has been a really, really fruitful evening. Right, one more composition from me, and again, it's a bit stretching my creativity here again, and my vision for potentially different conditions. If I spin you around, I was actually just heading down to the car, and I saw this. So we've got this rock here, and it kind of juts out the ground at an angle. So if I bring the tripod down and bring the camera down, it cuts it into the sky, and if I position it just in the right hand side, it points out into the sky, hopefully one evening to a really visually exciting sky, and then the ground down there as well. And the thing I really love about Dartmoor, and actually the heather season, is actually if I bring you along to this clump here, it's a much better example, but where you get the heather there looking all beautiful and purple, but then you get the contrast of the grass, the golden colour of the grass blowing in the sun, and that they really catch the light when that sun gets low in the horizon. So yeah, that's probably going to be my last shot, and like I say, really good recce, really excited about coming back, and hopefully it won't be too long. But yeah, I'll say good night from Hookney Tor / Grimspound. It's a really nice place to come any time of the year, but it is one of my favourite locations to shoot heather. I'll see you again soon. Good morning and welcome back to my heather photography adventure, where this morning I'm back here at Grimspound. Good morning. Let me give you a quick status update on the project. So it's actually been probably a couple of weeks since I last did some filming for this. So my main focus actually has been here at Grimspound in the evening since I last came here and shot that little segment to video to talk about the compositions. I've been back a few times trying to capture the image that I've got in my mind's eye, but it's been a bit of a battle between clear skies, calm winds, too much wind, not enough wind. I've not quite found the ideal conditions. Well, I don't think I have. I mean, I've shot a lot of photographs, been back here about 2 or 3 times, but I haven't processed any of them. So it's maybe what I recall and actually what I've got might be 2 different things. But this morning, we're now actually into September, which I'd normally thought, well, that's actually probably not much chance of heather anymore. The heather might well be past its best, but I've come up here and it's looking quite nice still. I think I might even still have a couple of weeks left of shooting. But the reason I've come here, it's not ideal conditions this morning. It's clear blue skies. The wind's reasonably calm though, so that's an advantage. But Grimspound itself is normally, well, I would say it suits a sunset better than a sunrise. That's because if I spin you around actually, over in that direction is roughly where the sun sets, and this gives you the kind of lower part of the valley in which Grimspound sits. So that light casts all the way across here. But if I swing you around to where the sun is rising, you see that bright bit over there, it takes a little while for it to get above the hill. But because it's a clear day, it might mean that I can make the most of that light, even when it's kind of lower in the sky and you still get that soft light. It still should cast some nice light across the valley. It's just not quite at the angle. The angle tends to sit that way, which points towards sunset. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I think I can still get some good shots. And there's one specific shot I've got in mind. Okay, you can see I've got the Z8 mounted here on the tripod, looking down towards Grimspound. Now I'm only quickly going to go through this because I think I may have went through it in a previous part of this video. So right in the foreground, got some heather here, and this leads down through the scene. There's all these undulations of ground, clumps of heather. You can see facing slightly the wrong direction for this clump of heather, but there's still lots of these bits of heather facing in the right direction to catch the morning light. So it's quite a long scene, but slightly different from the other shots I've got here at Grimspound. There's some rocks here which will hopefully catch the light. The most interesting ones for me though are these two angular rocks here, which are sloping towards the rising sun. So I'm hoping these are going to get some light, and there's some lovely bits of heather down here as well. So it's quite a long scene, and then you go down to Grimspound there, nothing in the sky as you can see. So I'm actually good. I've already put the camera, put the guidelines on for 5:4 ratio. So I'm composing it in anticipation that I'll cut a lot of the sky out when I get back. I'm really anticipating a 5:4 frame, but if I just look back here, there are some nice bits of heather here. That's why I think it was possibly going to work more as a sunset location. Oh, there's the sun now. It's just popping up. So I don't know how long it's going to be before I get light on the scene. So I'm not doing a very good job of keeping your camera in focus here, on the subject that is. So the sun's just setting there. Let me just spin you back actually. Hello, yes, it's me in vertical format. So there are objects in the scene that will catch the light from the rising sun, including some clumps of heather, and there are some facing the other way. So I still think this is going to work. Now that sun's broken the horizon, it's just going to need to get above a certain angle before it starts bathing the scene in morning light. But there's a beautiful morning. There's a definite hint of autumn in the air now. Summer's passing by, and I'm really excited about autumn this year. I'll do something special for autumn as well. But yeah, let's get back behind the camera and get myself ready. I'm having to be really patient. If you look behind me there, the sun is up above the horizon, but it's not, the light hasn't quite reached the part of my composition where I need it to. Getting little bits of it. There's a clump of heather over there just catching the light. The tops of the rock behind me, they're just catching the light, and the grass is gently blowing in the wind. They're just catching a bit of golden light. So a couple more minutes, and I think I'll be in business. I just thought while I'm waiting for the light, I might talk you through some of the technical aspects of this shot, because it's, at the moment at least, quite tricky to expose for. Let me just quickly flick you around with the camera so you can see what I've got. So Nikon Z8, 14-13, no filters. The difficulty at the moment, or it's not difficult, but it's just one of the things you have to be aware of. At the moment, there's quite a lot of light and dark on this scene. So the dynamic range, particularly when you take into account the sky in that top left corner, with how bright it is, the dynamic range is quite a lot. So what I've done, hopefully you'll be able to see this in the back of the camera, is if I go to the picture profiles, picture controls are called on the Nikon, I've got mine set to flat. This gives you the most, this does the least amount of processing on the screen, because basically what you see on the screen is almost like a JPEG representation. By putting it on flat, it does a lot less contrast and saturation. So when you look at the histogram, if I bring that up, it gives you a much more accurate representation of the lights and darks within your picture. So if I think I get that in between the two left and right sides, I know I've got an exposure without any blown highlights or darkened shadows. That's one small challenge. The other is I'm getting a little bit of flare sometimes, so I'm having to put my hand around the side of the lens there just to cover that up. But I think the exposure will probably naturally balance itself out once the sun's up and on the landscape. I mean, we're really not far away now. The tops of the grasses are really catching. Oh, there's a bit of light there. Let me just flick you around on that foreground subject there. If you can just see it, just kissing the top of that heather there. So yeah, time to take the picture. I've packed up my gear. I'm pretty happy with the shots that I've got. I'm just taking a very pleasant walk back to the car through this heather, which I'm still really excited about, because first week of September and it's still looking very nice. So I still think I might have another week, maybe 2 weeks of heather photography to go. I'm really surprised by that. So what I'm going to do next, so I'm pretty well done with Grimspound, I think. I've got sunset and sunrise shots. There's always room for better or different conditions that I might want to photograph in, so I might still come back. But really, I think my focus now needs to be in one of the locations I talked about at the very beginning of this video, and that's Haytor. I've done some recceing up there, but I haven't really been up there to get the camera out seriously. So I think that'll be the next location I go back to. Weather forecast this week is looking a bit dubious, but, oh, sorry, as I've found myself, some of that choppy weather or that unsettled weather can lead to nice big rain showers, rainbows, so there could be potential opportunity, or it could just be completely grey and flat and wet. We'll just have to see. So wherever I'm going to be, you'll only have to wait a few seconds. So I'll see you then. This is the thing with Dartmoor. You just don't know what's going to happen. You spend an hour wondering about looking for compositions. You get down, you think, oh, nothing's going to happen. I'm not creative. And then boom, some magic happens. Dartmoor delivers. What Dartmoor giveth, Dartmoor taketh away again. I mean, that was short. That light that I had, and it's really annoying because I'm not really going to be able to show it to you. Of course, I'm going to have to show you in the picture that I captured. But I was, as I just said in that little clip there, I've been wondering about. I've got a sore foot, and I'm kind of a bit grumpy, and just not really enjoying myself. And the big cloud went over the sun, and I thought that's the end of that. But then there was just a little gap. And I did the sensible thing that all landscape photographers do, is look behind you. I'm looking behind me there, there's a rainbow, but I'm not particularly interested in that at the moment. But when there's a look behind me, there was a clump of heather. It's not at its best. This is really the tail end of the season. But what I think is going to really make the picture is the mood that was created. Big heavy cloud, sun breaking through at a low level, casting golden light onto the ground and catching the stormy sky. I think it's going to look really nice. I love these dramatic pictures you get. So even though the heather's not ideal or optimal, it's just the whole image. You know, it's the heather, the leading line through the picture, the heavy sky. It just looked good now. The sun's gone behind another bank of clouds. So anyway, I just didn't have time to film it. It was literally gone, and then so it was here, and then it was gone again. So yeah, let me set the picture up. I'm over the moon that I got that picture. I can't believe it. It just shows you in landscape photography, particularly in stormy days when the weather's unsettled. Sometimes you just need to take a chance, and you just get a break. I mean, that break in like 10, 20, 30 seconds, that's all it was, but it's all I needed. Got my camera set up, got the picture. I can't wait to actually get home and process this one. But that's what I'm going to do now. I think this is probably the end of the on-location stuff here for Dartmoor. I'm actually off on a week's holiday, so I think the time I come back, things will be done here. But one thing I've learned is I think heather season probably almost 2 months up here on Dartmoor. Maybe what we're in now. This is September. Started in August, so yeah, probably middle of July to middle of September. It's going to be a good time. But yeah, I think it's just end of the on-location stuff. I'll be back home. I'm going to go through the pictures and of course do the most important thing, the thing that I'm really excited about, and that's do some printing. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I'm here at home now, ready to do some printing, and finally actually turn my white void of a space into a bit more of a photography studio now that I've got some prints up on the wall. But I hope you enjoyed that adventure across Dartmoor capturing heather. For me, the heather season is one of the most exciting times of the year, mostly because unlike other seasonal events, heather seems to hang around a bit longer. You can make the most of it over a longer period of time. Some of these natural events, you know, they're only at their peak for 1 or 2 weeks, but heather has a longer life cycle, and as I found out this year, it's almost 6 to 8 weeks. So I had a really good time immersing myself into that one subject and capturing as many photographs as I did. Now, if you do want to see those photographs again in a bit more detail, there is a gallery for them on my website. There's a blog post to go with this video. I'll include a link for that in the video description below, or just head to my website and you'll find the blog post and you can have a more detailed look at those images. But from the 19 or so that I think I eventually edited and processed, I've selected 4 that I'm going to make prints of, and that's the final thing that I'm going to do now. So I'm going to warm up the old Pro 1 1100, well, not so old, it's quite a new printer actually, but I'm going to warm it up, load it with some paper. So the paper I'm going to use today is a Photospeed paper, obviously, and this is the Legacy Gloss 325. I really like this paper. It's one of the papers I've used the most over the years from Photospeed. It's an old favourite. So I'm going to print those 4 images off and we'll see what they look like printed. So I've got my 4 prints all ready to show you. Really excited. I love printing my photographs, as anyone who's watched this channel for a long time will know. But let's have a look at the 4 favourites. Like I say, these are all printed on Photospeed's Legacy Gloss 325. Got this first shot. This is from the first time out for the heather season this year. This is Chinkwell Tor looking onto Honeybag Tor there in the background. And I just really like this from the drama in the sky there, and of course all the colours, the purples and the yellows and the greens, which have been accentuated by the soft light from the rising sun there. Really fantastic picture there. Really happy with that one. Then moving on to Honeybag Tor, beautiful clump of heather looking really fresh and purple and vibrant. But it's not just the heather in this picture that I like, also like the undulations on the ground here, which are catching the light from the morning sun, and little paths that lead out to the rocky outcrop there, and a nice bit of cloud in the sky. Beautiful light coming across the tor there. Really like that one. Another one from Honeybag, slightly different location, as a different spot in Honeybag. This is the same, one of this very similar composition that I used last year, or took last year. Clump of heather there, got these 2 rocks balancing out, angled to go along with the hill in the background there. Not much happening in the sky in this picture, but it's got a nice beautiful pastel colour, so it's quite, the sky's quite soft, so I quite like the softer nature of this photograph. But my favourite, and probably the most unexpected one, in fact, before I talk about that one, I don't actually have any from Grimspound that I printed off. Grimspound I wasn't particularly happy with this year in terms of getting photographs of heather. I found some great compositions, but none of the resulting images. I didn't have real other conditions I wanted when I needed them in order for me to feel compelled to make a print. I probably should point out though that I probably will make smaller prints of all the photographs, because I firmly believe that by printing your photographs and looking at them in physical form, you can learn something. So even though there might not be a picture that I'm going to put on the wall there behind me, there is some still worthwhile printing them. So nothing really from Grimspound to put on the wall this year, but the unexpected one was this one from Haytor here. And as you just seen in that clip there, just before I started talking about printing, really unexpected, but this is a real proper Dartmoor-esque picture. This is the kind of Dartmoor pictures that I love to take. Heavy sky, gaps, light coming in from the side, causing areas of light and shadow. So we've got the heather beautifully lit here, bit of shadow here, and this sort of path running through here out to the hills and the further away tors. Lots of drama, lots of contrast. This is what I really like, so I'm really happy with this particular image. And I'm going to take these 4 photographs and they'll sit here and I'll live with them for a bit longer, see how they go. And you know, if they don't require any further editing, I will probably select one of them to print A2 and perhaps put on the wall there behind me as a constant reminder of why I get up early or stay out late in all sorts of conditions to photograph Dartmoor. Well, I'm going to draw this video to a close. I hope you've enjoyed all the things that we've covered here, from the longer adventure across multiple locations as a photograph, the heather on Dartmoor, to the printing. The printing, like I say, is a really important part of the photography that I do. And as Charlie White himself says, the print is the rightful inheritance of the photograph, and I couldn't agree with Charlie more on that one. A really important aspect there to create prints, particularly from a little project like this. But if you've done any sort of projects, do let me know in the comments below, particularly ones around natural events. It doesn't just have to be heather, it could be the bluebells or snowdrops or autumn. Let me know what you do. Do you do these little seasonal projects, and then do you print your work afterwards, and what do you do with those prints? I'll be fascinated to hear what you get up to. So that's about it from this video. I'm going to pop up some playlists and videos in the corner of the screen. If you've got some more time to watch another video, I would really appreciate it. But I will be back in another video again soon. But until then, thanks very much.